There's a box of crap there. Hilux, that plugs the Hilux. That's 1UZ, and I gave it to Jason and he threw up and threw it in the bin. It's another one of those Australian ones where they just, old sawers, and they're just way past fixing. Jason's actually already got a bit of a loom done, and he's going to put the final touches on it, put the ECU or the transmission wiring into the loom. We're going to put it on an engine and we're going to fire up and run it. Supercharged Hilux, automatic, Haltech 2500, which we seem to be doing quite a number of the Haltech products and quite a number of the autos, and Jason has got okay at doing them now. Yeah. Yep. The last couple that you've done have been absolutely lovely, and Brian from Lunar Garage said your loom was just top class. He'd thank you for that. And he's, as you said, you've shown videos of driving. And that one, the is supercharged as well.
Because you tell me I want a video of the burnout.
Roger, I'll get that sorted. So this is for Tony, JKJ Automotive in Australia. I think it's okay to say that. They're going to sort this. We're going to build a loom for it. Relays and fuses are done. We just have to assemble all the pieces, test it, check it. And this one, they've supplied the ECU.
Yeah, there's ECU in there.
There's ECU in the box, good. He also supplied a premium loom, which we are not going to use. We're going to trade that in, and we do it our way with our Tefsel wire and our Raychem, because the loom will just shrink down to a lot smaller. Like bikinis, wiring looms like bikinis, less is more. Don't get out your bikini though, thanks. Right, old Yella's going to be an auto. I'm going to play with blocks. Alright guys, I've showed you the old loom that we started with. In a moment I'll show you the new loom that we've moved to. But I thought I might just talk a little bit about the system, the Haltech ECU with auto control. Now any of the Haltech ECUs can do auto control, providing you have enough inputs and outputs to complete the job. Generally we just go straight to the 2500 because we know it's going to do what we need it to do, and we're having to compromise because we'd like a few more inputs on that ECU in most cases, or it's very close to it. On this particular job we've pretty much used all of them, there's a little bit of room to move around and change a little bit, but I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Now it's a full aftermarket ECU that also does all the transmission control along with the engine. Now people will sometimes come to me and want a Link ECU with auto control. Right at this point right now, Link do not have native transmission control in their ECUs. Okay. It's coming, but at this point in time it's not an option for us. So what does it do? How does it do the transmission? Or what do we do with the engine? Well, it's a full engine ECU. It does all the normal functions. So you can map or change the parameters for timing, for the different inputs. So I'll do different engines, but I of course mainly do 1UZs. Map the fueling, so you can change all the fueling, put your rev limits in, change your dwell of your coils, control your idle speed control, boost control if you want it, and many other functions. So it is a proper full engine ECU. And then it does the transmission. So it does your shift points. In this particular case, there's 2 shift solenoids, so it controls them. It does the lock-up solenoid and it controls the line pressure. It does that with inputs of a vehicle speed sensor, or output speed sensor. And it needs a gear input as well. So that's why we use an additional gear shift box thingy. It takes the signals, the digital signals from the shift inhibit switch, and it turns them into a single analog input. If you were using a Nexus, you could put them in directly as digital inputs. And then you can change and shift all your shift points for that transmission. We had one with a 12-point dial knob, so we actually had 12 different tunes for the transmission. It was really handy for setting it up. And then we just selected 2 that we felt were most suitable, like a drag, strip mode, and a normal road mode. Or that's like a power or economy. So it controls that transmission just lovely. And the results are really, really good. Far better than the factory ones. And we extract what feels a lot more power from the transmission. Of course, we're getting more power to the engine. That is, we are achieving more power. And we're being more efficient with the way the transmission works and controlling the logic so it holds gears in a better controlled fashion than the factory ECU. It'll kick down faster if we want it to, or it'll change into top gear a lot later if we want, or shift gears, hold the gears longer so it revs better. And of course that gives you the feeling of more power. We have got more power from the engine, but it makes that transmission work a lot better. So if you're looking at a system to control the autos, and Haltech aren't the only ECU that do it, there are other ECUs, but of course at this point in time we're talking about the Haltech because that's what we're doing. Okay? It works really well, and that's why we're using it. Price-wise, lots. There's a lot of money to set this up properly and get it working and running like it should. But when we're working on these older vehicles, it solves a lot of problems compared to what you've just seen on that factory Loom that was disgusting, and allows us to get the most out of the engine and transmission. Right, I've changed locations. And as opportune has it, a man just inquired. He's from Pakistan, and he's wondering a few other questions about the Haltech setup. He asked whether it can be upgraded for boost. Well, the one we're doing is for boost anyway, so the Haltech ECU will happily take boost. It'd be really appropriate now to have this level of the map sensor. I think it's a 4-bar map sensor that's fitted. Don't quote me on that one off the top of my head, but it's got a reasonable map sensor up to most jobs built into the ECU. So boost, no problem. You can tune all the boost zones, so no worries there. As far as transmission goes, Haltech do advertise they can do 4, 5 and 6 speeds. There's a possibility they actually go 7 and 8. Personally, I've done the 4s just fine, and I have a mate that's done the 5-speed Toyota boxes just fine. I'd expect no problems with the 6 speeds. On the 4-speed, I've used just about all the outputs. I might be able to score a couple more outputs if I didn't put a check light in it and I didn't put an oil pressure output on from the ECU. But we may need to add an expander box, or these days the likes of a PDM. Haltech do a PDM and use that for those extra outputs may be some options. So yes, there are upgrades available, but again we're limited on the inputs and outputs of the ECU. Cost wise, there's a big step between the 2500 and the Nexus, but it does depend on your future plan, so it's really good to look at that and consider what you're doing with it. I hope that's been helpful, kind of, and I'm sure there's going to be more questions, but that's a little bit of an overview. Let's move on to what Jason did on the wiring loom. Jason has been busy. Yeah, there's a wiring loom in there. Look, there it is. It comes around. We've got 4 coils. Got a fuel pressure sensor, which is going to go in there. It actually slips back a little bit, like that. It goes in there. Now the throttle body on this vehicle is supercharged, so the throttle body is going to be about here. So hopefully this TPS out here like this, yep, somewhere around here. So it is long enough to go in the factory position as well. Idle speed control, that won't reach the factory position, but we will supply this unit here with a weld-on fitting. And that's going to go between the throttle body and the back of the supercharger. This is imaginary supercharger. There's an air temp sensor in here somewhere. Here it is. And I've supplied an air temp sensor. So I like these ones, a 12 by 1.5 thread, and it's got an enclosed tip, so oil doesn't affect it in any way. And it comes down to this connector right here, so it can go underneath the intake manifold, under that supercharger, be mounted up properly, which is the ideal position. At the back we've got earth here. We've got an earth on this front of the engine and same on the other side. Okay, so we've got 3 earths. This system's running a Haltech and it's running an auto. So the Haltech has been set up for automatic control. Automatic transmission control, that's better. And so the factory loom, all the original looms going in the rubbish bin. That's what we started with, this whole mess. That is the plug into the vehicle. It's broken. So I will give Tony a pin out for that so he can match in. Like there's the starter motor right there. There's water temp. There's oil pressure. There's a switch that's on the engine as well. And I think there's some reverse lights in here as well. Quite certain there's reverse lights in there. So coming down to the transmission, we have a new selector switch. I can't get the plugs, the connector for the older ones, so I'm just supply a whole switch. And that'll be about there on the transmission. Plenty of length, that's definitely going to reach. Around here we go. Here's the rest of the transmission loom on my bench. So we've got a transmission temperature sensor, because these vehicles, this particular Sora, had a 6-pin solenoid plug. So there's no temp sensor in it. Again, it's on a sub lead, so Tony can mount this 12 by 1.5 thread into the transmission pan. We've got this rear speed sensor, which can be used for the dash, or we can use this thing for the dash as well. The Haltech can have an output. And there's a couple of speed sensors, one at the front of the transmission and one at the back. It should be right here, one at the back. There it is there. Now the gear shifter, this fella here, that does the gear shifter selector switch and start inhibit combination unit. So it comes up to this unit here. There's this plug here that's got gears written on it. And plug that in. Now I have calibrated this on the bench, but it will need to be calibrated correctly, fully in the vehicle. A standard set of relays and fuses. You guys have seen these before. If you've watched my videos before, these are real simple. We've got fan. Oh, I've got to get my engraver out. Fan, fuel pump, ignition in and start in. You can hear the relay underneath the intake manifold. So not only is the temp sensor, but there's a pair of these fellas. So knock sensors with the studs to mount them, the whole setup. And we've got that starter motor trigger. So Tony hopefully has got the early Sora one. And it goes into the, it's on a sub loom. I can unplug that now. I'm also going to supply a starter cable. So that's the main battery power going into the starter motor. Hey, there's normally a little bag zip tied to it with some connectors on it. I'll just see if I can grab one. There we have a little bag with some extra crimps, and then the extra bit can be used for earths. That's going into Tony's box. And one of the first things Tony's going to do is he's going to mount, we'll fit those knock sensors under the intake manifold, and then we can plug in that sub loom. Of course, when you put it on the engine, Tony will take a bit more time with some zip ties and put it all together. Temp sensors. This is the EFI temp sensor. That's the factory one. And in this little box, there's a brand new Denso unit. We have an oil pressure, oil temperature sensor, which is wired in. Again, it's on a sub loom. So down here. And being Australian, Tony will want air conditioning. So it comes in, little sub loom, and it comes up just to the fan, the AC pump clutch. The speed sensor on the pump isn't used. That will then be fitted in. It may need a tap run through. I use a 1/8 gas tap to fit that in, and same as the fuel pressure, fuel temp sensor. Oh, there's another little plug on the trans loom I should talk about. This fella. If you want to fit a line pressure sensor, then this has the line pressure sensor wiring in it. Okay, so you can, there's a 5 volt on earth and the signal coming back. Now it doesn't come back to the ECU at this point in time. It comes back to this plug here. So we've got a fuel temp sensor, the ECU, and the line pressure. So we had to compromise a little bit. We're running out of inputs into the Haltech to fit every bit of sensor data that we want. So we compromise a little bit. Most guys will run it one or the other. Though it is possible depending on the setup that Tony wants to run. I've set this up the same as I set up our Zephyr. The Zephyr had a twiddly, like a 12 position twiddly knob. They call it a rotary dial knob. And so we could use that AVI, the input, as the line pressure input. So that is possible. So a little bit of changing around by the ECU and we could make that work. There is a dash plug with some extra wires in it. And that's this one here. And we've actually got these two as well. So this thing's got like the temp gauge in it, oil pressure. And you've got to either oil pressure from, if you put in an extra sensor, an extra one, or you use the Haltech, which is an output for an oil light or a gauge. And also the air conditioning wire. Over here, we have the ability to wire that rotary knob with a 5 volt and an earth. It'll be the bottom ones. And some other stuff. What is that other stuff? I've got some paperwork. What have we got in there? Oil light from the ECU, check engine light, and an SPI. So that can be used like for the dual maps for the transmission if wanted, a few other bits and pieces, a few inputs. This one's got a reverse lights. There's a few things that Tony needs to consider when he's wiring this up or fitting it to the vehicle, which is that air conditioning. So we've got the inputs and outputs there if required to run air conditioning. We haven't got a relay. Tony's not sure what it's like in the vehicle. I had a chat with him and he's not sure what it's quite like, how it's set up. But again, I know I knock Australians. It's like a sport for Kiwis, and Australians knock Kiwis back and they call us sheep shaggers and all that's all good fun. And it's really appropriate because I've got a few sheep. I've put in as many options as I can to make it as universal for Tony as possible. So fingers crossed that's going to work. He's going to have everything that he needs in there. Right, I can probably make this go. I've got some vacuum line with it. Lots of sensors. I think we're ready to make it go. Let's fire it up. Coils, would you like a 3UZ one where you cut this tab off and it pushes down onto the tapper cover? Or do you want these ones? Oh, these are tight. Oh, they really are tight. Jason cuts them. Come on, baby. Come on, let you go. These ones which bolt in, but we have to remove a little bit of the insulation around the outside of the coil. Jason takes bare minimum off, so they're tight. These will fit in a Gen 2 engine without any modification, so I use a lot of those in Gen 2s. Gen 1s, I use a lot of these because they slip in nicely and they don't need to be modified there, but we're cutting that tab off and then they need a bracket or use the top cover to hold them on. So Tony, that's a V6 Toyota. That one there is the 3UZ V8 Toyota. Let me know which coil you want. Up! Oh, wait. Happy days, it's a runner. Righto, I'm pretty happy. Sensors, showed all the sensors I'm including. The inhibit switch, the IAC, idle speed control. The ECU was Tony's. He sent that over from Australia and then it's going back to Australia. I'm supplying the gear shifter box, the relays, the Loom, injectors. Okay, so this particular vehicle in Oz has got the standard injectors on it. It's been supercharged. That's not a good idea. Okay, so what I've suggested is we supply some 360cc injectors, just that a little bit bigger. Also got some 450s, probably a little bit big for this. The 360s I use in NA engines, but I only get about 50% duty cycle. And I do that because it actually gets a bit more power in the top end because you can control your injector timing better. And they're not so big that you totally stuff up your bottom end, fuel economy and the fuel atomization from really, really big injectors. But they'll be just fine for the supercharged vehicle as well. And actually probably a pretty good choice. So Tony will let me know whether he wants those as well. I'll just run over this gear in here. That fella there, it's got a connector, goes to permanent battery power. I'm using a wire that will run about 60 amps, which is probably more than we really need. We got a fan, fuel pump, start relay, an ignition relay, and the ECU relay. The ECU relay supplies power to both the ECU and the injectors. This only does the coils. And it does the accessory powering too, like the shifter switch and stuff like that. This is our generic box. It's actually got a feed to the ECU for start, but that uses up one of the SPIs or the digital inputs, so I've chosen not to run that at this point in time. We use this on Link and Haltechs, and in this case I've chosen not to do it because of the compromise on everything else. Fan output, fuel pump output, ignition input, and the vroom vroom, the start input. And of course, it does need to be in park or neutral on the shift inhibit switch. Haltech 2500 does have a program in. It's the same one I was just running it on. As I've said in other videos a little bit, I supply the tune when I supply a setup like this, or the pinouts. In this case, Tony sent me the ECU so I could run it on his ECU, put some good numbers in it, and these numbers are reasonable, and Tony will be setting it up in Oz. It'll be tuned properly. The fuel numbers I put in will be quite rich, just in case people just get in it and drive it, like the one I sent to the USA recently. He jumped in and took it for a drive, but it wasn't going to hurt it because it was plenty of fuel, plenty of rich mixture. Tony also does have a wideband, and that will plug in through the CAN plug. There is a CAN plug here, and it can be figured in the ECU. The ECU numbers that I supply are to get it up and started and running. They're not actually designed to be driven on. They're designed to give you a good head start for tuning it on a dyno and setting it up properly. Okay. Guys often contact me and say, "Hey, can I have one of your tunes? I generally only do it for jobs for paying customers. They're not something I just give away free because I've worked pretty hard on getting tunes. But of course it's included when I do a wiring package like this, or we put some numbers in to give you that good head start on starting it. So in the tune, I've also added boost maps up to 1 bar of boost. I don't think we're going to be getting there. And timing maps up to 1 bar of boost as well. So both timing and fuel maps. Tony, of course, will tune that. If it has different injectors fitted, then it will need the injector sizing changed. I've done a video on that as well at the Haltech. There's some outputs, of course, that can be configured however Tony wants them. I've got a whole of diagrams, not diagrams, so some pinouts for him. And I've got the pinout sheet that I used for the Haltech. After Jason's finished these looms, I do a big check over of it, check everything's bang on, especially in the auto stuff that we can't test drive this loom, and so we have to do it all on pinouts to check it's bang on correct. I go through and do things like I blow on the pressure sensors and hold the pressure sensor, the temp sensors, to see if they heat up. We check all the coil wiring and pin out to the knock sensors, of course. The whole thing is double checked to try and minimize issues for the customer when they get it. It's a big job, but it's something that I like to do so as I know that it's right. Now there is a little wire that confuses a lot of people. Here it is. This one. Same plug as the speed sensors on the transmission. That plug happens to be for the purge canister, for the breather system for the fuel tank, the charcoal canister. Did I say that? Might have said it twice. Anyway, evaporative emission system solenoid plug. In New Zealand, it's a legal requirement for certification to make the vehicles legal to have a working evaporative emission system. So we put a plug in for it. On this one, the trigger just goes back to one of the dash plugs. So to enable it, it needs a bridging wire into one of the DPOs, digital pulsed output from the Haltech. So if that needs to be put into place, then it needs to be bridged to make it work. For New Zealand customers, we make it work. We compromise on our outputs. There's a good chance that this vehicle won't have a working breather for the fuel tank. It was possibly a diesel one where they just had an external breather on the fuel tank. But we still put the plug in. If you don't need it, you just drop it into the intake manifold underneath there, into the valley, and it just disappears, or you zip tight, cable tie it out of the way. It does have a power feed in it that is working and operational. It's linked into the injector, so you don't want it shorting out. So you want to secure it properly, or zip tie it back on the loom. But as I said, we have reasons for doing that. Okay, I'm pretty happy now. Hope that's been helpful. Tony, just confirm everything's good. I'll put a list down for you of everything that's in there, and I'm going to get it off this engine and get it in a box, get some photos, and talk to you next week. Catch you later.